great, isn't he? I love that song that God is. He is good. And God's good in all of his ways. And part of God's goodness for us as his creation is to give us all things that we need to enjoy life spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. And that's what we're embarking on today. We just recently had the Women's Health Observance today, and we're following with the same plan for the men today. We are having men's health service. And before we get into the speaker and what we will talk about today, I want to share the scripture with you, and it comes from 3 John 1 and 2, and I think we all know it. And this is what John said. He said, "Dear friend, I pray that you may enjoy good health." And good health comes in many different ways. It's emotional health, there's mental health, there's physical health. And then he says that all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well. So it's God's desire that we have health spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, in every part of our lives so that we can live a fruitful life. Is that what you want? I do. I want to live a fruitful life, and I want to be healthy in all of my areas. Well, our speaker today, and I'm going to read his bio today, his name is Anthony Andrews. Anthony is a licensed professional counselor who has been in private practice for 4 years at Counseling Wellness and Health, located in Charlotte, North Carolina. Anthony is a North Carolina A&T alum. Is there any A&T alum in the house? That was very weak. Anthony is a North Carolina A&T alum who graduated with his MS in Rehabilitation Counseling in 2014. He is currently back at North Carolina A&T in his second year as a doctorate student in the Rehabilitation Counseling and Counselor Education program. Anthony is an Adlerian therapist who focuses on assisting his clients in battling their own inferior feelings and finding purpose in life. Anthony has a strong research interest in mentorship, specifically in young African American males. He has spent a copious amount of time studying and research methods for building mentoring programs in North Carolina. Anthony believes that mentorship is essential to success and has dedicated countless hours through his fraternity. So are you an alpha? Are there any alpha men in the house? 06, there we go. Yes, Anthony believes that his mentorship is essential to success and has dedicated countless hours through his fraternity and church to give back to the youth through time stamped with consistency. Anthony plans on receiving his PhD in 2019 and hopes to continue to provide outpatient therapy along with the integration of supervision and teaching. To the St. Peter's Church and family and community, let's stand and receive Anthony and his brother Travis as they come and share with us mental health.
I appreciate it.
Good having you again,
I
Anthony.
definitely appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
All right, Travis, have you read that?
How you guys doing? Can you please give yourselves a hand? This is a beautiful church, a beautiful leadership. And also, I would like for you to give your praise team another hand. That's amazing. That's amazing. I was here at 8:30 this morning. I was sitting over there, and I saw them like rehearsing early this morning. I said, "Wow!" Like she was really the director, the leader. The leader. She was getting them right. She was getting them right. So I enjoyed it. The spirit hit me this morning, early this morning, right over there from seeing the praise team this morning. So I enjoyed it, and I've been welcomed with nothing but hospitality since I walked in. It's a beautiful place, beautiful area, and you guys have amazing leadership. I know my bio is only read. My brother didn't know if he was going to be able to make it, but he's definitely, we founded the company together a few years back, so he surprised me this morning, was able to make it, and I couldn't be more, joyous to see him here today. So, this guy right here has definitely mentored me, and he's my older brother, 5 years older. So he's definitely mentored me, and he's definitely shaped my path and how I go. So, it's only our duty to give back to the young youth in the communities. Let me first off by saying that, Dr. Barnett who's at North Carolina A&T. I know we didn't have a lot of A&T alum in here. I think she told me there's a lot of Rams in here. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. So I'm going to give all of you, some leniency on that. Everybody's making mistakes. So we're going to pass that on. But Dr. Barnett is definitely a mentor at our university. She's the director of the counseling department, and she has spent her life's work into giving back through mental health as well. And when she asked us to come today, we couldn't turn it down because we feel like this is our duty to give back to the men and the community in a whole. And she also informed me that you guys lost a member of your church who was definitely a lady of wisdom and definitely a lady of courage, and Mother Hash. So we definitely send our condolences, and our prayers are with you and your church family. And we know that she's in a better place, but wisdom is definitely powerful to me, and I take wisdom importantly. And I know when we're up here, you're going to hear us talk about a couple of things. One being my grandfather. He was a big role in my life and our lives, and he passed in 2013 at the age of 102. So give it up for him. He, in the absence of my father being in our household, he played an important, essential role in what it meant to be a black man. My mom was there too, so you're going to hear us talk about my mom. So she was there. She's the strongest woman I know. And I know she couldn't be more proud of her boys. Also, I'm going to talk about my church. My church played a big role in our lives because our church was the first platform that we were able to even get into public speaking, reading Sunday school highlights, BTU, Baptist Union quizzes, and the church was so important. So when I come to churches, I always speak to the youth, and I ask the youth, are you going to Sunday school? Because Sunday school is where your reading starts, where your socialization starts, and it kind of takes the pathway to everything that you do in life going forward. So, so church, mom, grandfather. So I'm going to go ahead, before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and let my brother introduce himself and give his little background as well, since he didn't have his bio in.
As you can tell with the head of hair, you can see who's the youngest. But no, jokingly, all jokes aside, my name is Travis Andrews. I'm also a licensed professional counselor. I got my undergrad and graduate degree from North Carolina A&T State University. and the same as the rehabilitation counseling. I have a passion for counseling. I've been counseling and dealing with youth since 2006, started in a group home environment. I've seen our young African-American boys, and it just seemed lost. Lack of family, lack of fathers in the household, dysfunctional within the household. And you have a counselor who's coming in there that may not be culturally competent, who understand the struggles we go through, or understand our culture, or understand our youth. And right there I said, okay, it's time for me to make a stand. It's time for me to give back. And that's what my grandfather instilled on us. Our parents gave us two things. The first is roots. The second is wings. So it's up to us to be able to take that knowledge and take that information and give back to the community. For the past year, I've been absent. I've been in Iwakuni, Japan, giving counseling services to military families and children on their base. That was a big cultural experience. Just to add to our resume, add to our platform, take information from different countries and bring it here. That's what it's about. It's about leaving our neighborhoods, leaving our communities, and bringing that information back. Because if we don't help each other, who's going to help us?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, and just one simple question, just a show of hands. How many people get upset and angry sometimes? Raise your hand. Okay. How many people feel like you're losing hope and you don't know what they're doing anymore? Raise your hands. How many people feel like they're just so stressed out that I'm just want to give all up? Raise your hands. Well, that don't make none of us crazy. That's a human behavior. So that's what counseling is about. That's what therapy is about. It's about helping and finding a way to your answers. Don't keep that stuff bottled up and you explode. It's an outlet, but we have such a stigma, and we'll get more into this on therapy. I ain't crazy. Ain't nothing wrong with me. We're humans. We're humans. Thank you.
Yeah. So when you're looking at mental health and you're judging mental health, we find out in the research that, and I'm not going to sit up here and bore your research because I know there's not a lot of information on males, period, and not going to counseling because as you can imagine, males don't report. They're not going to counseling. A lot of them not going to counseling anyway, so you're not finding a lot of them in the literature. So I can only speak on experience that I have seeing my clients and me growing up in my household. Now, like I said before, there was an absence of my father in our household. So my mom was essentially raising two boys by herself, right, with the help of my grandfather. My mother was really, really strong, but lacked emotion. So she always said, I raised two boys. I had to be tough. I had to be tough. So there wasn't a lot of I love yous in the home. It wasn't a lot of, hey, we see you later. We really love you today. This is that. We wasn't giving that expressions to each other because we were raised in a different environment where it was said to be tough and it was said to not let emotion show. Now, we didn't really see the problem with that then, but when you go on and you compare yourselves to other families and you're looking at this love, you notice that something is missing, something is lacking. So it wasn't probably up until 4 or 5 years ago when we really dabbed into the field of therapy that we started saying, we're not getting off the phone without telling our mom, I love you. And in essence, she has opened up, and now she is being more vulnerable in expressing emotions. So she would never admit it, but she's becoming more vulnerable now, and she has played an amazing job. So we're about to get into the first slide where we speak about mental health, period, and what mental health really means. This is the title, Mental Health Awareness, African American Males. And this pertains to all males as well, but I focused it on African American males because I got recent news that there were a few suicides in the Winston-Salem area. Even back home in my area, outside of Wilmington, a small town called East Arcadia, North Carolina, there have been a lot of deaths, and we have a drug issue back home as well. So, I had to specify this towards African American males because I felt like it was needed and essential at this time. What are we ignoring? And I think a lot of men ignore the times that they need help and that they won't admit they need help. So, the classic saying, when they lost, who asked for directions? A man's never going to ask for directions. There's times where I know myself, I got groceries in the car, and my wife is telling me, just go ahead and keep one there and come back, keep one there, I can help you. I got 8 bags on one side, 8 bags on the other side, trying to get them all in the house at one time, just to prove that I don't need any help. So I'm not saying that, I'm not a victim of this as well, because I too can act too prideful at times. But it's really a problem in our men about not addressing their need for help. So, let me get this clicker right. I don't know where I'm pointing to. If you could go to the next slide, that'd be great. Okay, what is mental health? Mental health refers to the cognitive, emotional well-being. It's the person's ability to enjoy the basic things of life or to deal with the basic stresses of life. So we all go through stressors. We're going to go through job stress. We're going to go through relationship issues. We're going to go through issues that anybody can face in life. But it's about how we deal with our stressors. Everybody's not going to, you might have been stressed this morning because of traffic. So you got a person that gets in road rage, or you get a person that just say, hey, let me take my time. Wherever I'm getting to, they can wait. If I'm going to be 5 minutes late, those are the stresses that we're able to deal with on our own. We're not saying, I always tell my clients and the people that I work with, I'm not telling you not to get angry. You're going to get angry. I get angry. I'm not telling you to not get sad. I'm not telling you not to get frustrated. It's going to happen. It's a natural feeling. But it's how we react to it that decides whether we have good mental health or poor mental health. So we have to analyze ourselves and to see how are we going to approach today and go into whether we're thinking we're going to have good mental health or bad mental health. Now, I'm going to get back to my grandfather. Like I said, I'm always going to talk about my grandfather during this spill. He had coping mechanisms that were unreal, way above his time. So this man's 102 years old. And like I said, he used to recite this poem called If to me by Rudyard Kipling. So about keeping your head and staying focused. So during this whole spill, we used to say Granddaddy, he used to write poetry. He used to record his poems, and use this for his own coping mechanisms for himself. Fishing was a coping mechanism, and he always utilized these things to help himself get through the daily stresses of life. Now, I would talk about my grandfather because, like I said, he was a God-fearing man. And he would always knock on our door every Sunday morning and make us get up and go to Sunday school, make us get up and go to church. So we gave excuses. I'm tired today, Granddaddy. You know, I don't have to be there. Why can't I just go to preaching? I don't want to go to Sunday school. So we were giving all these excuses. You know, he's dragging us to church. But you know what? When he got sick, he dragged himself to the doctor. When he had a problem, he would talk it out with somebody. So I'm dealing with a lot of clients, especially in couples counseling with our men. They always say, well, I don't need to go to the doctor. I don't need to go to mental health. I don't even need to go to church. Now, so I was sitting back in church a couple Sundays ago, and they were calling everybody to give their life to Christ and calling people to the altar. And I saw all these women coming to the altar, all the men staying back. And even when the women would go, they would have to come back and drag the men back to the altar. So I'm thinking to myself, this is the same thing from spiritual wellness that's happening with mental and physical wellness. The women are the ones dragging men to the doctor, dragging men to the altar now, and dragging men to the counseling sessions. But yet, we want to be leaders of our household. So I sat back and I thought about it for a while. I said, you know, it just doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up. So pride to the side, we have to realize that there are issues, there are problems. Then we have to realize that we have to take these issues head on, because we cannot lead anything. The Bible tells us that we have to be able to receive the word and the message from God before we can lead anything. Before we can lead anything, before we can lead anybody, especially wives or household, anything, we have to go ahead and get the word from God. But if our mind is clouded, then how are we supposed to do that? Oh, clicker. Next slide, please. Get the next slide.
Okay. African American males, we have our sons, our fathers, our partners, our husbands, and our friends. However, each comes with responsibilities and expectations. We all have roles. We all have responsibilities that we have to accomplish. No disrespect, but a man needs to do a man's job, and a woman needs to do a woman's role, responsibility, because one can't do both. You know, especially when it comes into raising the kids, raising in the household. Okay, we have so much single-parent household or whatnot. You heard the saying, daddy's little girl and mama's little boy. So each person has a role and responsibility when it comes to just everything in life. We need somebody. We can't do everything alone, you know, but a woman doesn't need to take on a man's responsibilities. Not saying that she cannot, but some things that a man needs to do, as my brother mentioned earlier, being a protector, being a provider, being a leader. You know, women are the most precious creatures on earth. Right. Who deserve good love and good care by a strong, God-fearing man. Okay, next slide.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, gender gap in mental health. Men make fewer visits to mental health professionals than women. Again, my brother noted on this, you know, we strong. We don't need no help. We don't need nobody telling us what to do. Ain't nothing wrong with me. You know, but who's suffering that? It's the family. Because I'm coming home and I'm taking all my anger and frustration on my wife, you know, and she just being supportive and loving and just standing there, and I'm snappy and irritable and get out my face, ain't nothing wrong with me, you know. And the kids got to feel the effects of it, you know. Daddy want to be isolated to himself. He doesn't want to fool with nobody. He may start drinking more or whatnot. That's because he's not receiving a healthy outlet. You know, and that's the importance of mental health in general. Like my grandfather used to say all the time, 102, like my brother said, but when he'd wake up and pray in the morning, the first thing he thanks God for is a clear mind. That's the first thing he thanks God for, is a clear mind. Because if we do get sick, we will run to that doctor. If something happens, we will run to another professional for our physical body, but we do not support our mental body or whatnot. And really, the mind is the gas to the car. Whatnot. So if it's no gas in that car, you're not going nowhere. Okay. These gender differences are particular pronounced with regard to general care, but decrease when it comes to specialist or residential care. Men are more likely than women to choose to deal with mental illness on their own and to rely on self-care options. And sometimes, a lot of the time, those self-care options are not healthy. You know, substance abuse can increase. Again, irritability can increase. Anger can increase. And we just need a little outlet. Something could have lost our jobs. That's life. We could have be having financial difficulties. That's life. But that mind can assist with changing those negatives to positives. And that's what it's about, encouragement. Getting up every day and say, I'm going to do this. When you speak positivity, positivity come to you. If you're walking around thinking everything is bad and call yourself a victim, what's going to happen? Bad stuff. If I leave out and wake up every morning and say, I'm going to have a bad day, I'm going to have a bad day, I'm going to have a bad day, what I'm going to have? That's it. You got to speak what you want into existence. Next slide.
And, you know, this slide was compared to women because I think about the times I'm in my sessions, and the women usually come first when it comes to couple counseling. And they ask, well, what can I say to my husband? What can I say to my boyfriend? What can I say to my partner to get him to come to counseling? And this is the most vulnerable thing I ask my clients to do. I ask them to ask their husbands, well, you may not have a problem. You say you don't have a problem, well, can you come with me? Can you come and support me? So if you just come and support me to come into the session, now we got you in the door. And usually if you can come into the door, these things will start just to come out, and they'll pour out. And you know, like my brother said, you always get hit at the end. It's not like I'm crazy or nothing. But all of this stuff is just coming out. And I always disclose that I have my own personal therapist. So I'm not telling people to do anything that I wouldn't, because I know I have to keep up with my own maintenance. Because who am I? Yes, thank you. Who am I to refer somebody to a counselor when I didn't do it myself? Now, our university required all of us licensed professional counselors to go through 3 counseling sessions when we were in our master's program. So when they first required us to do it, I said, I don't need counseling. Why am I going to counseling? I said, well, how am I going to ask somebody to do something that I haven't done? Now, I know this sounds cliche, but after my first session, I walked out, the sun was brighter, everything was good. I said, whoa, man, I feel good. So with the stresses of school, with the stresses of life, with the stresses of being that son, and being a fiance at the time, my boyfriend at the time, then fiance. Well, I just got married like a few weeks ago, so thank you. My wife couldn't be here today. She had another engagement in Charlotte, but definitely she sends her love. But it was new to me. So we still go to counseling. We still make sure that we're getting our maintenance in because we know we can't do it alone. There's something about a man's ego that always wants to make them right. It's the most vulnerable thing that you can do to say that I need help. And, you know, that vulnerability comes from a different aspect. I remember I was telling Dr. Hash about when I gave my life to the Lord when I was 9 years old. And I remember being in the church down home and my grandfather sitting in the deacon's corner. And I took that walk down the aisle to come. It was the most vulnerable feeling that I've been in ever. And at age of 9, I can still remember it, clear as day. To get up there and confess that the Lord is your Savior and that He died on the cross. That is the most vulnerable thing because you're basically sitting there and saying that I know I need help. I know that I'm submitting myself to someone else. That's the most vulnerable thing you can do. And it doesn't, and to be honest, it feels right, but at first it doesn't feel comfortable to do. So, you know, at the end of service, you see people standing there, oh, should I go out? Should I go out? Oh, should I do it? Should I do it? And that's the same feeling that people get when they come to counseling. Can I sit there and give myself and say that I need help? Let me be vulnerable, put myself in this state of mind that says that I need help. I need to get somewhere to better my relationship with whoever I'm with, my coworkers, my significant other, my kids. Parental issues are huge. Like I said with my mother, sometimes people don't know how to love their children. Some people don't know how to express that love. And some people need words of affirmation. They need to hear that they're loved. I had a mentor one time that said that a person needs to hear, he tells us, it was an Upper Bound program, the late Dr. Richardson. He said that I tell you guys when you're doing something positive just as much as you're doing something negative, because he believes that every child needs to hear it. And so then I also had another mentor, Derek Greenfield, Dr. Derek Greenfield. We were at Shaw University. That's my undergrad, Shaw University, the greatest HBCU alive. There wouldn't be a Winston or A&T without Shaw University, so let's pay our respects. Let's pay our respects. But he was at Shaw University, and he raised a baby doll. It was a men's group. He raised the baby doll, and he said, how many of you will let your son play with this doll? And of course, we're, 18, 19 at his age. My son is playing with that baby doll. My son's not playing with that baby doll. We're going to give him a football. We're going to give him a basketball. And he said, what if giving your son this baby doll teaches him how to be a nurturer, how to love, how to care, how to take care and show some responsibility to your child? Maybe this would decrease the absent fathers. Maybe this would increase the love and the emotion that a father gives to his child. All these things, these are stigmas. And that's why I'm here today, because the stigmas are how a man should be and how a man should act. We have to break the stigma to move forward. We must, because we're dealing with issues that are going unannounced, that are going undocumented, and all because of pride. You have relationships that fail over pride. You have problems going on in church over pride, over people that can't say, I forgive you. Let's move on. I made a mistake. So, we have to put all these things to the side. So we get down, if you go to the next slide, what is really the issue? Oh, I'm sorry. Here we go. Thank you. I appreciate it. Did it go? Oh, yeah. Okay. You can go ahead.
Okay. What is the issue? Attitude. Mm-hmm. The attitude towards getting help. We just said this earlier. I'm not going. Pride, the ego, the whole nine. But everything in life, we'll go quick and get help. For a car breakdown, we'll run to a mechanic, the quickness. Need an oil change, we'll run to a mechanic. Need anything, we'll run to another professional who can help us besides mental health. Mm-hmm. Concerns about the stigma. This is the number one barrier. When we were first founding and opening the company, we struggled for about a month or 2 months. Getting clients, wanting to particularly go to the rural area and service the African-American communities. Because we have nothing down there. Like we said, we stay in a rural town in East Lake. We have nothing. No Boys and Girls Club, no anything. We have nothing but the church. So the kids need an outlet. But the problem was getting the parents to buy in. And I hate to use that word, buy in, because this is not, me delivering these services not for my benefit. This is for your benefit. You're going to obtain more out of this than I am, or whatnot. So just breaking that stigma. The number one thing is we're not crazy. What is crazy defined as? Because we think of mental health, you think of, if you close your eyes and say mental health, the first thing people usually think of is some person with a knife ready to try and kill you. That's the image they have in their mind, like this psychotic person who's going through stuff. But there's so many different areas of mental health. You could be stressed because, again, you lost your job. You could be stressed because you're going through a divorce. You could be having anger because your kids are acting out in school. That is still defined as mental health. But we don't know that. We so caught up in these labels, and people try to label us already. We always got to do something from the ground up anyway. Because we're the strongest culture out here. We're strong. We know we're resilient. They try to beat us down and take opportunities from us and say we can't do it. But what we do, we continue to rise again. And another thing, think about this. I know I get a little off subject, but I wanted to give you a little history of this. Slavery times. We were so physical that they know they couldn't stop us. So how did they break us down? They broke us down mentally. They didn't want us to read. They didn't want us to do anything. They want us to break us down mentally. They say, I can't do nothing with them physically. They out strong, they the whole nine. But let me break their mind down. And if we don't stop it, it's continuing to happen. In these classrooms, the teachers put us in the corner, don't want to give us any attention. Well, Billy could have been up for the whole night because his mother, they don't have any food, and he could have been hungry. And he couldn't wait to get to school to get some breakfast so he could eat. You know? So that's the stuff we have to take into consideration. Again, judgment. What is people going to say? What are they going to say about me? You know, they're going to think I'm this and that. I tell people all of the time, my clients, counseling is the best outlet you could come in and get therapy. But due to this, you don't have to worry about somebody running off and telling your business. You know, you're going in front of a stranger and become vulnerable, and you ain't got to worry about Susie Ann knowing your business, the whole community knowing your business and spreading your word and your gossip. This is the best outlet. I'd rather choose this than the fear of somebody going to be having my business out in the community. Mm-hmm. Yes. And lastly, vulnerability. My brother hit this perfect. We have to become vulnerable. And vulnerability comes with gaining trust. You know, we choose not to do stuff because of our fear of trusting others, or trusting the system, or trusting things. Because, you know, we have been screwed out on some things in life. You know, and it's hard for us to trust situation and things, especially these days with the internet stuff going on, everything popping up on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. You know, how can I trust this situation? But in order to get over hurdles, get over fears, we have to become vulnerable. And like he stated when he was giving his life to God, that was a vulnerable moment for him. But it worked out because he took that vulnerability. He's a married man. He's an educated man, and he has a successful career. So vulnerability isn't bad all the time.
Thank you. Yeah, and back to what we were saying about the stigmas and how people relate to one another when it comes to counseling. I have a good friend of mine, one of my best friends actually, and we were speaking a few weeks ago, and he was just saying about his job stressors and his life struggles and how sometimes he suffers from anxiety and all of these things that he deals with by himself and internalizes. I said, hey man, you might want to go ahead and go to therapy. And everybody hates when the friend that's a therapist always recommends somebody to therapy. So I can't be a friend because everybody always says you're trying to pull that therapy stuff on me. So, but anyway, he said, they can't tell me nothing. I'm not going to therapy. Ain't nothing they know that I don't know. It's going to sit up there and want to get in my business. I said, hold on, you do know I'm a therapist, right? He started laughing. He said, yeah, that's why I'm going to you, because I can get you for free. So, but, you know, at least he acknowledged the fact that he definitely realizes that he needs assistance and that he needs help. Now, you know, it's still going to have to struggle with him getting into those doors, but it's about first step bringing awareness to a situation. Now, my bio, we spoke about me having a passion for mentorship. What I found is that in African-American males, young males at that, we really can't compare them to other races or other cultures. So therapy may not look like regular therapy to a young African-American male. They might not need just therapy. They might need a mentor. They might need somebody to go out to the schools for them. They might need an advocate where the parents can fill that void. They might need to see someone that has done or been successful just to give them hope that success can happen with them. My grandfather, again, he used to talk about this poem called Equipment. So just look it up, the poem called Equipment. And it basically says that you have 2 ears, 2 eyes, and a brain to use if you want to be wise. I just paraphrased it, but it's basically saying that you have every tool that you need to be successful. So when I'm doing my therapy sessions with my young adolescent black males, I'm highlighting the fact that They can be anything that they want to be. Now, everything is not therapeutic. Sometimes I'm going in there, I'm just being nothing more than a mentor to them because I'm noticing the need, and that's what they need. So, and that's about being culturally competent. And a lot of people will stray away from therapy because of that lack of competence and lack of what the book says. I can't read out of a DSM and assume that and diagnose somebody in a field like that is exactly what every child needs. There has to be, Adlerian therapy is a style of therapy that relies on the relationship between the client and the therapist. So my first initial sessions, I might just be building a relationship with you. So we become friends. We become somewhat of a relationship that you can disclose information to me while I self-disclose. I'm a big self-disclosure person. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. You tell me a little bit about you. That's how it works. I can expect someone to come to me, especially not youth, and just tell everything about themselves to me. And I'm sitting there just on my notepad, right? That'll make me uncomfortable. So I went back to school so I can integrate supervision and literature. So when you look in the literature, it's not a lot of literature on us in a positive light at that. It's a lot of negativity associated with it, but it doesn't speak on the culture factors of why we may act the way we do, or males, period, because a lot of the literature are not being done by males. So going back to school would give me an idea to integrate everything that I'm trying to do in a piece when they're working with adolescents. So that's why I think mentorship is so important. I'm going to go to the next slide and speak about generational curses. Generational curses. Now, I went to school with an author now. Her name is Debbie London, and she wrote the book called Residue, and it's about overcoming generational curses and soul ties. She speaks about everything from the abuse that she suffered from with her grandfather, how the grandfather abused her grandmother, that trickled down to her mother and her relationship that she didn't have with her mom. So everything started from this grandfather in the book. I want you guys to read it. It's a good book. Everything started with the grandfather. So the generational curses, his unchecked mental health led down to everybody coming after that. So I emailed her, and I said, you know what? I'm going to do this presentation on the stigma of mental health. I want to reference your book. And she said, I'm so honored that you would do that, and especially coming from a man, because I centered the book to be for women. I said, wow, that's interesting, because everything in the book I read about started from the grandfather. So to me, men need to be reading the book as well as women. So women can notice the barriers that they might face from the men, but it all started in the book from the grandfather. And him coming back from the military and reshaping the relationship they had in their household trickled down from someone 20, 30 years later. We're dealing with a lot of generational curses in our communities, in our environments. People are dealing with abandonment issues, commitment issues. I've had clients tell me before they're dealing with these issues because they fear their significant other would just leave. He's waiting on his wife just to leave him because his father left him when he was younger. So these issues are going unchecked. And I don't blame the generation before us because it wasn't there. The mental health wasn't there. These services wasn't provided. So these services was going unnoticed and unchecked. So they're just running down. So a lot of people don't know how. So I can't sit up here and just pour you down with literature. I can only be an advocate and say that mental health awareness is important, especially in our men, that we need to do more and do a better job. Like I said, years of mental health goes unnoticed, and we always get hip to phrases, this is how it's always been. I dealt with it. My mother dealt with it. My mother was sexually abused. Now I'm being sexually abused. Now chances are that I wouldn't care, or I might allow sexual abuse to happen to my daughter or my son. It just trickles down. Generational curses. How do we break the chain? Break the chain is through awareness, through knowledge, and being an advocate. And if you have a friend that needs help, you're not a friend if you don't tell that friend they need help. We got to really start judging who our friends are,
Right.
or who our buddies are.
Right.
You know, I can be around a group of men. I hang around men that we all check each other. There's a problem going on, you need to go get seen. Your blood pressure high, You need to put down whatever you're eating, and you need to eat some salmon. You need to eat something that's going to do better with your diet. So we're all checking each other to make sure that we're holding each other accountable. Without accountability, then where are you going? What circle are you around? So we have to be knowledgeable of that and definitely try to break the ties of generational curses. Next slide.
All right, this goes barriers. Number one, trust issues with providers. Comes to that again. How can I choose the right therapist? Do I know that therapist is going to be able to be relatable? That's fair. That's a common concern that one needs to have. But the thing is, do your research. You don't go to the first doctor you see. You leave that doctor in a heartbeat and said, I'm going down here to the street to another doctor. And that's your choice. That's a choice that you have. So just don't let a bad experience with one therapist ruin it with all therapists. And I will hope that you guys will come to counseling, wellness, and health or whatnot, because we can give you the therapy needs. But that's okay. You just choose your therapist that you like. And that's what it's about, and that's good. The positive thing is that you're seeking counseling, you're seeking help. The next thing, limited access. And that's the concern that we had in the rural country with this, because it was a lack of providers and there was a lack of access. We have people in the rural communities, and they totally didn't have transportation. Didn't have transportation, schedules was already packed, and couldn't do it. So what my brother and I decided to do, we decided to do therapy within the home. So, we stopping any possible barriers. Because it's tough. We've been working 8 hours a day, and the office may be on the other side of the town. That's going to stop participation just naturally. Okay, so what can we do to stop the hurdles that from happening? Let's give services in the home. Some people like it, some people do not, but it's still an option. The next thing is insurance, and this is a kicker. This economy we live in now, insurance rates are skyrocket. They're taking away from us. Co-pays be $30, $40, and then the insurance only covered it with so much. Look for other options that they have. Some have sliding fee scales. Some have payment plans, care credit. It could be worked with or whatnot. It doesn't have to stop at one person who doesn't accept your insurance or that rate is higher. It's about researching to get the needs that you want. Anything else we do, we'll research who has the cheapest food products. Who has the cheapest hair salon, just whatever, just anything in life. We always put research to. So let's research our mental needs again. And this historical context. Tuskegee syphilis experiment. Want to get into that?
Yeah. So we're talking about, coming from a historical context, when you're talking about trust with providers. So we all know what happened in the experiment with Tuskegee and how, our African-American men were tested and injected with syphilis. Now, from the historical context, that could definitely make anyone a little antsy about going to any kind of provider, whether it be medical, mental, or even physical. So we have to break these barriers and make sure that we putting ourselves in positions to still go to therapy. Now, I also was doing military counseling on Fort Bragg Base. I was contracted out to do military counseling. I emailed my supervisor one time, and I said, a lot of African-American men are coming to me saying that, my caseload is being overworked. I'm being overloaded because every black male, it seems, was coming to me. So I said, let me do my research. Turns out I was the only black male on the entire base providing counseling. The only black male providing base on the entire counseling. Supervisor really couldn't understand what I was saying. I was saying, she was saying there are other males out there. I said there's not a lot of black males out there. So understanding that connection and understanding that even though another therapist might be just as qualified as me, therapeutic relationships are about rapport. It's about rapport and connecting with someone. So not saying that person can't, but it would be good to see a nice face to do that. Now, how do we do that? We have to make sure that our men are being attracted to these universities to go into counseling programs. So we have to look at, when there was a study done to see why black men, or why men period, are kind of fading out of the counseling profession. They were saying, well, men want power. So you find men in business corporations, Wall Street, they go into, some people go into technology, anywhere where you can assert power. What is power? So that's why I always ask myself, what really is power? Because when I think of power, I think about implementing change. So the ability to implement change. So if I can affect people that are like me, that look like me, that people even that don't look like me, and if I can affect change, then that gives me all the power that I need, because I know where the real power comes from, and that's from God. I went to Belize, the country of Belize, a few months ago. We went over there to speak with the black men there as well. And I realized it was a global issue. We were talking about disabilities with the program, and we went over there to provide counseling supervision. They don't have licensed professional counselors over there, licensed social workers. You have people in the community providing this mental health that we would define as mental health, even though it's not technically defined as mental health. They're experiencing burnout as well. You know who were at the forefront doing everything over in Belize? The women. The women said the men don't want to come out. The men don't want to admit that something is wrong. The men do not want to be vulnerable. So I said this is a global issue that people of color are facing about not wanting to seek mental health treatment, because you can't see it. You can see if I have a broken arm, you can see if I have a broken leg, but you can't see if I'm suffering from depression. You can't see if I have anxiety. Right. You can't see if I'm a schizophrenic. You can't see whatever I'm suffering from. But the mental health is still there. So when I got back from Belize, I said we need to implement more. Just let's not even focus on the counseling right now. Let's focus on getting the word out there about giving people knowledge about what they're missing, what the men are missing. Because a man has a lot of power in a household, and that if he's not doing something, it would probably stop everybody else the willingness to do something. So if a man's not going to counseling, sometimes I've seen wives give up and say, well, he's not coming. There's nothing I can do. Can you call him? Can you talk to him? You know, I can't do that. So only the men have to take that step and that vulnerability step to get out there. So that's just what it is. And, you know, it's a global issue, and it needs to be addressed. Next slide. Okay. So we're talking about mental health within the black community and how an article was done about how mental health is viewed. So now you got the first thing, psychological. A trauma that happened to somebody where that person says, okay, we're recognizing, well, yeah, that person, somebody died in their family. They're suffering from depression right now because they can't properly get over grieving from the death in their family. So we notice that psychological. Now, we're talking about trauma. Let's go back to the black community here, and we're talking about the age of social media. An age of social media where people are on social media over half the day. Hey, my mom is on social media over half the day. She's retired, so I'm going to let her slide with that. She's retired. She paid her dues. So if she want to get on Facebook, she can get on Facebook. But on a serious note, in the recent killings of black men by police, in what other culture or race are you witnessing teenagers, my nieces, his daughters, were viewing, I looked over to Instagram one day, and they're witnessing the death of one of the victims that just got shot by the police. We're seeing this on camera, live, feed after feed after feed after feed. Death, right there at a thumb scroll. We're witnessing this. Our kids are witnessing this. So if you don't think that has a traumatic effect on a child, then we're being naive to the situation. Kids are witnessing that. It's not movies or an action movie or movie. This is real life. This is real life. So we're thinking about the trauma that we're having. It's right there in front of our faces. Our other component, we look at the biological factor. Okay, well, substance abuse came and runs in our family. This is here. This is it. But I never diagnosed anybody with a substance abuse disorder that I didn't diagnose with a mental health disorder. Because when you're talking about substance abuse, You're talking about someone using the substance for a certain reason. And a lot of substance abuse issues get addressed, but nobody looks back and say, well, why is this person drinking in the first place? Why is this person smoking in the first place? We have to address the need at hand. We also look at it in a spiritual way. Man, this happened to me because I hadn't been in church in 4 weeks. God's punishing me. And he may be. He may be. So it's good that we look at it in a spiritual way. And we also look at it in a supernatural way, where these people are possessed, demonic. The Spirit is taking over. And I'm a believer in all. So, and that's why, I have a balance in which I do therapy. And to say that I'm not dismissing the church. I'm not dismissing your spiritual beliefs, because I believe that it's there. I'm an energy person. The moment I walked in this building today, it was filled with energy. Energy. Positive energy. So I completely felt welcome. Yeah, give yourselves a round of applause. Because it's not common everywhere. It's not a common thing everywhere. You can walk into a church, especially this big. And I used to always have a thing with big churches, because we came from such a small church. And I said, I'm going to go to an intimate church. Small. Our church is from here to probably that lady in the pink right there.
Shotgun style. It was shotgun style.
I was like, I always had a thing for an intimate church, because I felt like, I could always reach my pastor, talk to my pastor. But to come to a church this size and still feel welcome like that, I know I shook my, yeah. I know I was greeted. I know I had to shake. I had 30, 40 handshakes this morning, and I was greeted. It was just, lovely. So to have that intimacy and still have a large, big church, that means God is blessing the church. Right. And you can witness the blessings. So let's pay attention to how mental health is viewed in different cultures and be culturally competent in how we do things. Next slide.
Okay, African American men on what professional treatment should entail. Okay. Number one, a licensed professional. I know we're throwing all the acronyms and letters out, and we're like, what in the world? LPC, LCSW, or whatnot. My brother and I are LPCs. That's just a licensed professional counselor. That means that we went through the required training, education and training and testing that it takes to have your life in our hands. So we take this seriously. We're not mentors. We want to provide research into that mentor area, but we're not mentors. We're not just somebody you're going to talk to. We're professional counselors. And I say and emphasize that with pride, because remember, as that 18, 19-year-old wandering in A&T, and like, what I'm going to do with my life. So you look 10, 12, 13 years later, and you're a licensed professional counselor with the work and energy that it took in to do that. So in the midst of all of that, we're a student to the game, meaning that we took this serious, we took the necessary steps that it takes to take your issues in your life with great care in our hands. You know that commercial with Allstate, you're in good hands? We went through the necessary treatment to make sure that you're in good hands. The life and the mind is important. Do not play around with that. Somebody already took that vulnerable step and said, okay, let me seek treatment. You already came to the water, so it's time for me to do my job or whatnot. Number two, seeing a professional that is understanding, willing to listen, and empathetic. On our test, on our counselor test, those are the qualities that it takes to even be able to be a counselor. So if you run across that and that person is not showing that, get up and go. Because I know I'm not going to want to talk to no one who's not understanding. I tell them something, they frowning up their faces, say, or interrupting you every time you say something. That's not the fit for you. Now, I can't sit here and advocate and say that all counselors are the best. No. I can sit here and say, we put our time and energy and studies and experience into this profession and going to do it to 110%. Next, culturally competent. This is so huge. A lot of, like I said, the group home, story with the group home, no disrespect to any other races. No, I'm open-minded as they come. That's why I went to Japan, just to integrate with different ethnicity groups. But when I was in that group home watching those kids, it was a struggle to see me. We had this young man, maybe 12, 13-year-old, kind of rough around the edges. Okay, we all are, And you have this older Caucasian lady who come in there and trying to give counseling service, and he's just bucking and rebelling. She's just not understanding at all. So we'll try to give her some tools or something that she can understand. Like some stuff with the stuff that he's displaying, it's just in our culture. It's some culture stuff. Our parents could have said, all right, smack you with my backhand. I seen some professionals who's willing to run and call DSS. I said, no, ma'am, no. That's just some of the phrases that our mothers and our grandmas use when it comes to sitting us down. Like, I smack the taste out your mouth. We used to hearing that. That doesn't mean you need to call Child Protective Services. Don't call Child Protective Services. That's just the essence of our culture, So if you lack the understanding in that, it'd be harder to gain those rapports, to gain that relationship. Another one is real crucial, non-judgmental. That's, to me, that's almost more important as being a licensed professional. Because what you look like running into a place with the vulnerability and someone is judging you. That's not what it's about. Leave the judgment at the door or whatnot. You want to be able to be vulnerable, be able to get it out. Because if you're holding stuff or not telling everything, it won't all get fixed. And lastly, one who doesn't impose feelings onto their clients. That's one of the, again, all of these important points. But I keep saying that's the most important, but all of them are important. This is highly important because we have to be open-minded in any situation. It may have someone come into me and have different views as I have. I can't oppose my views on them and say, okay, that makes you a bad person. I see why everything's happening bad in your life. It's not my job. My job is to assist you with the tools needed for you to come through the hurdles that you're going through. I don't care what you do. I'm just glad that you're here. And hopefully you can find the right direction and where you need to go.
Okay. I promise we're wrapping up. The common sense model. Research was done on the model developed by Howard Leventhal. It was based on self-regulation theory for African Americans, and basically entailing that we want to basically see the process of treatment. So if I say that I'm conducting treatment with you, then I need to see step by step how it's going to go, because it goes off our cultural experiences and also how we view life and how we're doing things in life and how we definitely cope within the areas of our life. So the motto entails that. If I go to the next slide. Let's see. Okay, here we go. All right. It has 7 components where it speaks about the identity. So we have the issue of being labeled. So you can rephrase things, and it's about psychoeducation, giving education to the client. You can't come in and tell a male that, okay, he has this and that. He has depression, but not telling him what depression looks like, or giving him the basis of how it can be cured, or how do you deal with it. It also needs to be the cause. Why do you have that? The next step is the cause. Why do I have that? What past issues am I dealing with to deal with this disorder? So educating the client. The timeline. How long will I have this? Will it be a forever disorder? And if it is a forever disorder, how can I still live independently and function throughout life? And that's the main goal. Making sure that anybody with a disorder, disability, any kind of issues can still function independently. So the next step is the consequences. Okay, well, what are my consequences from having this disorder? Will I still be able to work? Will I still be able to deal with things? Am I a bad person? Am I suffering from guilt from having the disorder? Is something wrong with me? So we need to see that as well. The cure, like I spoke about earlier, can it be worked out? Can it be solved? And you got to find, as a therapist, you have to find the person's social support systems. Who is in your corner? And if that person doesn't have any, then it might be you as a therapist. You might have to support that client. And the therapist should be supporting the male anyway. And the illness, what the individual thinks about the illness. And that can go back to labeling, meaning that would this person be even willing to admit that I have the disorder? Do I have anxiety? Do I have depression? Am I going through marital problems? That takes a toll on people to admit when something's going on. And the emotional representation, the emotional toll and the impact that it has on a person. So all of these things play a factor. All these things make sense to why a person may not want to come to therapy. So in the African American community, we would love to see a breakdown. Research says that we love to see a breakdown of basically how the therapy is being done. So next slide. Okay, it's already up. Oil changes. This is my last slide. Oil changes. Because through all in all, you have the couple, you have the individual, and you have the male that sometimes says, nothing is wrong with me. I have everything good. Everything good. I never suffered from depression. I never suffered from anxiety. Everything is great. My uncle told me one time, he said, Aunt, I don't care if you get the most expensive car in the world, you're still going to need an oil change. You're still going to need an oil change. So if you have the perfect relationship, you have the perfect life, you have the perfect job, nothing stresses you out, you still need an oil change. So I'm challenging all the men in here today to spread the word. I'm challenging the women to support the men in getting out there and to receive and get your oil change. So please, we thank you for your time. We want you to go out there and be great, get your oil changes, and have a blessed life. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Let's give them another great hand of applause. That was excellent. That was excellent. Another one. That was excellent. Yes. Well, St. Peter's, let's pray for our men. We have heard information that is so vital to the success of the family. If you're a man, stand up, please. Or if you are a male, sons and daughters. Sons only. The Bible says we are to pray one for another. And we have heard information. Personally, I think it's second to none that can relate to our culture from these two precious men who have been open to us. And I like they tied the scripture to what they said. I never heard it said like he said it there. I even may, when I start taking notes, you got my attention. Psychological, biological, spiritual, and supernatural. That's powerful. Culturally competent. Now let's pray for our men. Come on, ladies. Join us as we pray one for another. Father, we hold up our men that what we have here would not fall on deaf ears, but each of us will learn and hear and run and do that will make us better fathers, better sons, better leaders, to represent you before our sons and our daughters, before our nation, before creation. Help us all, Lord, to be better men, better fathers, better sons, better Christians, better husbands. Whatever you have assigned us to be, teach us, and let there be a thirst and a hunger in our heart to take what we have heard and apply it to our life, and be open to counsel, and know that we all need help from you, but you have raised up men that have studied and learned what we need to hear. And we'll bless you forever, and we hold up every man under the sound of my voice, and those that are streaming online. Men, we have an awesome responsibility before God, before our family, before our sons and daughters, and before God's creation, to walk in the fullness of God. and be the man that God created us to be. And Father, we give you the glory, the praise, and the honor. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, we pray, and everyone would say, amen. Thank you. It is always important when we get such information like this, not to let it hit and fall to deaf ground, but purpose to obey. I pray that you have some cards. Do you have cards? Did you bring cards with you? Will they be out in the foyer? So we will have some cards. I would encourage every man to get a card. And, you know, the good thing about him, if you go to his office, you can go to Charlotte, won't nobody know you. Because sometimes we're literally going to local places, don't want nobody to think, but you gave a good analogy of the mental part of our physical life. Again, to your brother, I forgot your brother's name, but to both of you, your parents did a good job with you boys. So they, Well, again, I would make sure you get me one of those cards. I like to have one because I do a lot of counseling myself, and I got someone I can refer to right down Charlotte. Amen. God bless you. May have a seat, please. Thank you. Again, praise God, from whom all blessings flow. If you are a first-time visitor, if you were staying, we would acknowledge our first-time visitors this morning who the Lord brought here. Thank you. We're so honored to have you with us this morning. This is your first time coming to St. Peter's. Thank you. Are you with Miss Cook, or you just be setting the sun over? Will you please continually? Because there are some, we would like to, if you would go over and meet this couple here, get your pocketbook. You won't be gone but 5 minutes or more. And there's some information we would love to give you and share with you. I thought you were side of Miss Cook, the most important person in the world. But you just happen to be in the right seat. But God is good, isn't he? Praise God. We'll open the doors of our church. Anybody want to join the greatest church in the... Oh, wait a minute. There goes another first. Let's give our first-time visitors a great hand of applause. Yes. Praise God, from whom all... Anybody want to join?